Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Liz. I'm from the Construction Professionals SkillNet. I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar on getting the business that you want with Damien O'Brien and Paddy Mahoney. Just a little bit about the Construction Professionals SkillNet before we start off. Basically, we're providing the funding for this session and for the programme that Damien actually runs, which is called Transform Your Business. And so more about that later, but not just at the moment. Just very briefly, the SkillNet is funded through the National Training Fund, which comes from employers' PRSI. We often don't know where that money goes off to, and we often wonder about, what's the point in paying it, but just to let you know that some of it does find its way back to you. So there's a percentage of the employer's PRSI that goes into the National Training Fund, and some of that then goes towards SkillNet Ireland, and then funds about 70 SkillNets around the country. So that's where it's going, just to let you know that, and that this is funded, I suppose, through the Construction Professionals SkillNet. Damien is the host really for today. Or the main speaker, along with Paddy. Paddy will be joining us later. We'd like it to be as interactive as possible, so you can ask questions as you're going along or make points and things like that. So if you can, it'd be great if you'd put on your cameras and unmute yourselves if you want to speak. And if you have a question and you don't feel it's appropriate just to talk at the time, just stick something into the chat and we'll follow up on that then later during the session. We're going to be running till about 11:30. As you can see, it is being recorded. We'd like just to make it available to people who couldn't come this morning, and also just really to get the information out to people. So I think that's really all I need to say. So I'm going to hand back over to you, Damien, and let you take over from there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Liz. Good morning, everybody. It's great that you all took the time out of your busy schedules to join us for an hour and a half on a Friday morning. So I know Fridays are typically busy at the end of every week, but we always find that when we're doing something like this, Friday is a good day to kind of take a bit of stock for what's going on for the week and get your plans set for next week. So we'd like some of the outputs of today maybe to formulate your plans over the coming weeks and months. As Liz mentioned there, that the topic for today is getting the business that you want. Now, I would love to be able to tell you that after an hour and a half of myself and Paddy speaking, you have all the magic tools to get the business that you absolutely want. But I'd be probably telling you a little bit of a fib if I was to proclaim that. What we will be doing is giving you a bit of background on what really successful companies or really successful company owners have done to build a business that is sustainable over the longer term and gives them a huge sense of personal and business satisfaction. And I think that's the kind of key message that we want when we're talking about building a business, that it has to satisfy both your company needs and obviously more importantly your own personal needs. So one of the things that I do as a business, again, as Liz said, my company's name is SME Matters. I work with scaling companies. So I work with companies who are turning over between maybe 3 to 7 million, but they're looking to get into the teens, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and I've been lucky enough to bring businesses up to the hundreds of millions. So I've had the pleasure of working with different business owners coming from different backgrounds, different education levels, right through to different motivators. And what I've done over the years is I've kind of captured some of the, I suppose, the essence of what make those businesses successful and the drive that these business owners have, and captured into a couple of key points that I think is relevant for every business owner at any stage. And what I'm going to talk about this morning for my section is very much about best practice. It's not a one size fits all. So I'd love to be able to say, you can follow this roadmap and it's a guaranteed map for success. What it is I'm going to cover some key points that if you get right, you are more likely to be successful in your business, and you're more likely to be content with the business that you have. And I think that's a hugely important point to get across. Now, as Liz said, we've only got a handful on here this morning. We're expecting about 20 odd people, maybe 25, 26 people. I'm sure they'll be coming on as we're going through the session. As Liz mentioned, it is recorded. But at any stage, if you do have a question, you can raise your hand either through an icon, or I don't mind being interrupted. I'm not that precious. So if there's anything that you feel like asking at the time, just please go ahead and ask the question. And as Liz mentioned, there's a chat function there as well, which allows you to put in a question that we'll get to at different stages throughout the program. So I'm probably aiming to talk to you maybe for about 35-40 minutes. That's probably enough. That'll be enough. By then you'll probably be worn out of me. And then I'm going to be joined by Paddy. Paddy's going to pop along in the next couple of minutes. And he's going to cover on the financial side, because again, myself and Paddy have worked as kind of a tag team with a lot of companies who have reached the stage where the owners have built up a significant amount of cash inside the business and have to make a decision as to, right, what is the most efficient way to use that cash, either at a personal level, or if they're looking to go on to further investments or further acquisitions, how best to facilitate it. So Paddy has kind of put those frameworks or structures in place, both from a tax perspective and from a personal finance perspective. And we felt dovetailing these two talks together, getting the business that you want, and then obviously using the proceeds of that business to your own personal advantage to be able to get, a reward for the time that you're spending in the company. And how do we make it, I suppose, as tax efficient as possible, and I suppose put that money to work and good use for yourself. So that's kind of the context of today. As Liz mentioned also, I run the academy for the CIF, the Construction Professional Skill Net as well. So we've run that successfully already this year. We've had a number of participants go through that program. And essentially that's a program where we, take best practices, and over a 3-month period, I work with just a handful of about 12 business owners, and we bring them through some of the stuff that you'll see today. And obviously with a 3-month program, we can go into a lot more detail. So as Liz mentioned, we might mention that a little bit at the end as well, so you get an idea for it. And that may be something that you're interested to go on and participate in. So now, I don't use slides. Liz probably knows me of old. I'm not a big fan of slides, and especially at this medium, where we're trying to get everybody in the room to concentrate on the screen for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to do a little something different. I'm going to use a whiteboard, and I've a magic pen here that allow me to draw on the screen. So sometimes you might see me leaning in and scribbling. That's just me getting up close and personal with the camera while I'm writing on my touchpad here. So if you just give me one moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up that so that I can start sharing the screen here. So now I'm moving, as you see over here, I'm just moving your faces over here to one of my other screens, and that allows me to both see the whiteboard and see yourself. So when I'm looking over in this direction, guys, I'm not looking away from the camera. I am looking away from the camera, but I'm just looking over at your faces over here so that I can see you. So getting the business that you really want. Now, this is, the $1 million question. Can I build a business that I actually want? And for me, it's a lot about making sure that you have a clear line of sight as to what your own personal objectives are. And one of the first things I'll do with every business that I go in to talk to, I get invited into a lot of companies. I meet a lot of different managing directors. I meet a lot of boards. I get to talk to them about their aspirations for the company. And one of the first questions that I get them to concentrate on is, what do they want out of all this? Do we fully understand what their motivators are, what their personal motivators are? And believe it or not, that's a question that a lot of people haven't answered for themselves. A lot of people think about where we're going to go on holidays next year, what type of car we're going to buy maybe over the next year or two, maybe a little bit about our home, which is quite a significant purchase. But when I ask them about their long-term motivations, what do they really want out of life? Because ultimately the company that you're building is going to be a vehicle to help you support and achieve your own personal objectives, or at least it should. And I found with business owners, the ones that have fallen out of love with their business, it's usually because the business is no longer supporting them in achieving their own personal objectives. So believe it or not, that's one of the first questions that I put to every owner manager is, tell me about your own motivators. And when I fully understand that, then I can start helping them to set out a vision for the business that will help them achieve those motivators. But until I get to the bottom of that question, I kind of nearly draw a line going, that's the first thing that we need to answer. And what I end up doing is I end up helping them create, and I suppose a lot of you have seen kind of these art programs where they talk about mood boards and all these lovely things, but And you know, I'm a visual person. I love seeing things in pictures. I love seeing things up in lights. So here, you know, I've a couple of examples that I've taken from other owner managers who've been through my programs or who I've worked with privately, and you know, I said, what do you really want? You know, some of them, you know, just want to get the mortgage paid. Some of them just want to make sure that they get the house paid over the next 3 to 5 years, and that it takes that, I suppose, financial burden of them. Some of them, you know, have a particular car they want to drive. That's fine too. One of my clients just recently took delivery of his new McLaren PF, I think it's 545. He came and collected me about 2 weeks ago to bring me first spin in it. Again, that's a guy who achieved one of his own objectives, you know, getting the house remodeled. This is a nice one here. One of my clients said he wanted to sail one of the 7 oceans over the next 3 to 5 years, heavily into sailing. And I suppose behind that is, if he's going to take that amount of time off, he wants to take a couple of months to do it. It means that he has to build a business that's autonomous of him, that he can step away without having to be involved in the day-to-day decisions. So when you see these type of motivators, it often leads into, well, if I'm going to achieve this, I need to start building a business that is capable of giving me both the financial wherewithal and the physical ability to be able to step away from what I want to do. Here we have a kind of picture of what a retirement could look like, you know, watching the sunsets at the end of your working career. Now, I think most people, when we start talking about retirement, they start thinking of retirement as something that you do after you retire, and it doesn't involve playing a lot of golf or sitting on the beach. It usually is a bit of work and a bit of pleasure, but it's trying to move the pleasure to a higher proportion of that time. And here we have, you know, I want to afford good education for my family holidays. I want to be able to take Friday afternoons off, go golfing with my kids, you know, whatever those motivators are. Or maybe it's, you know, I want to get this sum in the bank so that I can be self-reliant and I don't have to worry about money anymore, you know. So all of these are really good motivators for people to have. And I said they're real life motivators that I've taken from people's files. So one of the things I'll say to you, when you're starting out on any course or any path to build a business, know what you want for yourself, you know. Now, there's another thing I've actually started doing quite recently on the back of all this, and it was triggered by one of my clients that he started, you know, putting a list of all the things that he wants to do. Now, it's predicated on the fact that he can afford them, but he's made a list of all the things that he wants to do, and anything that jumps into his head, God, I must do that. He just writes it down. He's called it his joy list. And I think it's a fabulous idea, because we all need a reward from the business that we're building. And when we start putting things down on paper, believe it or not, when you put something down on paper, you are 6 times more likely to make it happen. Imagine that. The act of just writing something down means that you're 6 times more likely to make whatever you wrote down a reality. So the very act of doing it means you're kind of setting yourself a course of action. And, you know, I find this joy list, even for myself, it's a great source. You get to write it down, you get the anticipation of what you're going to do, and then you have the build up to it, and then you have the memories from it. So it's a win-win all round. And again, not enough of us take time out to enjoy the successes that we do have. So that all ties into, you know, making sure that we set the right motivators for our business. Now, for me, there's another factor over here as well. And there's an equation that I often talk about when I'm talking to owner managers. And it's quite a simple one. Let me just make this screen a little bit right-sized. It's profit plus time equals success. Now, when we start talking about profit, I think we all know what we mean by profit, whether you count it in terms of EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, or whether you talk about net profitability. So after your, all of your tax and outgoings are taken from that bottom line figure. So, you know, profit is a word that we all want to have and have a discussion about when we're building a business. And we do need to make sure that our business is thrown off cash, or else we're not going to be able to do any of the things that we set out as part of our motivators, or do anything that's on our joy list. So profit is a given. And I think the more educated we are in terms of how to make our business profitable, the better every business is. And it's not just about the turnover, but it's about how we build efficiencies inside our business. And we'll talk about some of that as I go through the different strategies in a couple of moments. One of the key elements here that I like to discuss with owner managers as well is this time piece. Now, time for me has two sides to it. You know, one is that inside the business, are you spending the majority of your time doing what you're best at and doing what gives you the most joy? And you know, it's a very simple question, but can have a very complicated answer. You know, sometimes we always do what we have to do just to get by. You know what I mean? We do jobs that we don't particularly like, and sometimes we do them for too long. I've been lucky enough to see business owners who are very critical of themselves and saying, I am not good at doing that, therefore I must outsource it or get somebody else to do it for me. It's not a good use of my time. And they're the guys who I find build businesses faster. You know, I've seen smaller businesses who say, oh, I'll do the books myself at night, when it's not something they enjoy. It's not something they get any sort of satisfaction out of it. And usually they're not very good at it. They should be doing the project management, or building out their management team, or spending time with their customers, or winning new customers. Again, so another question for you: are you spending time inside your business doing what you do best? Now, for me, business owners, the really good business owners, are spending about 60% of their time doing strategic activities. Now, that's a big number. And they're only doing about 40% of their time on administration and operational tasks. Now, that's not to say that this 60% over here isn't working on an element of their strategic plan. It could be, I want to win 5 new customers by the end of this quarter. I want to land 2 projects over €5 million each over the next 6 months. And they spend their time working on those. But they know that's the biggest value that they bring to the business. Therefore, they need to spend more time doing it. And they build the organizational structure so that they do not have to spend their days in the trenches. And this is always a leap of faith, particularly for scaling businesses. Going, at times we can't afford to get the people in that we need right now. And usually my answer is, let's find a way to afford them, because good people is what we're going to need to build out and scale a business. In fact, there's 4 elements that I use all the time as a line of sight when we're building a business. It's people, plan, implementation, and cash. They're the 4 things: people, plan, implementation, and cash. But it starts with people. We won't build a business on an individual. We'll build it on a number of talented individuals. And that's another key word there, is getting talented individuals around you. So that's what I mean by time from a business perspective. Are you spending most of your time doing what you do best and is of the highest value? And on the course that we'll mention a bit later, one of the exercises I give the participants is, you know, get me your rate per hour. Tell me how much you're worth to the business. Tell me about the biggest contract that you've landed. Tell me how long it took you to land that contract. You know, and break it down to actual hours. You know, so it might be done over a 6-month period, but it might have only taken you maybe 25, 30 hours to do it, and the contract could be worth €1 million. So if you divide €1 million into 30 hours, then you find out what your true hourly rate is. And when you know that, will you do a task that's worth 25 quid an hour, or 50 quid an hour, or 100 quid an hour? The answer should be no. And that's a big thing about putting a valuation for yourself in the business. So that's what I mean by time inside the business. And then obviously the other scenario of time is time outside of the business. Now, I've already mentioned that joy list as something that we all should have. I think it's a great thing. When I saw my client doing it, I immediately set up my own joy list, and I'm starting to work my way through it. So whether it's bringing my kids over to Anfield or Old Trafford, again, I have 2 boys, 2 different teams. It's great fun in the house when over the Premiership cycle. I have a daughter who's into hockey. You know, she wants to go to some of the international games. Irrespective of what they are, they go down on my joy list to make happen. And what I do is make sure that I take the time out to try and make those things happen. At the end of the day, they're the things that we're going to remember. So if we're able to spend more time doing what we're doing best at inside the business, I guarantee you the company is going to be more profitable overall. And you know what? It's going to give you more time outside of the business to do the things that you enjoy doing. And that is a very simple equation if you want to start building the business that you really want, that will give you the satisfaction that you know that you should be able to attain. And a lot of us are just living for Fridays, you know, and I've seen that in a lot of different businesses, a lot of individuals, as opposed to start building towards something that will give them this sense of satisfaction, both within and outside of the business. Now, so this goes back to our motivators. Do we have good motivators in place? So my recommendation is get your motivators. Get 3 visual items that represent what you really, really want. And there's another aspect to that as well. And they've got to be real motivators. You know, they've got to give you a little bit of a feeling in the pit of your stomach going, that's what I absolutely want. If you're putting down stuff that just, yeah, it's nice to have, but I have no connection with it, it doesn't resonate with you at your core, then those motivators are wrong. And I can guarantee it. If you put down a motivator there that makes the hair stand on your arm every time you think of it, you know, that really gets you excited, sometimes gives you a little bit of fear even when you think about it, but it evokes a feeling inside you, then you know you have the right motivators. If you don't, stay going until you start creating those feelings, because with those feelings becomes a belief that you're going to be able to attain them. And if we connect this at a personal level, so over here we have the feelings that will give you the belief that, yes, I'm going to build a business that's worth 100 million over the next 5 years. I'm going to build it's worth 10 million, 15 million, whatever your number is, and you really believe it, then it's all about how do we make it happen? Not will I do it? It's all about how can I make it happen? Now, with that belief and with the right motivators, then we can start working towards creating a vision for your business. Now, again, when I start talking vision statements to some companies, they look at me like I have two heads going, you know, we're only a small business, we're turning over whatever, 2, 3, 4 million. Do we really need a vision statement? Do we really need to have a full understanding of what the business is going to achieve over the next 3 to 5 years? And the answer is yes. And again, I'm talking about best practice from hugely successful people who I've been through this course with and seen the difference between people who've had this clear vision and those that haven't. Without that clear vision and without this belief that you're going to attain it, it's like trying to build a business with the handbrake on. It's like driving a car with the handbrake on. You can do it, but my God, is it tough going. Here, if we're able to create some vision that resonates with people inside the company and outside the company, people will associate themselves or want to associate themselves with it. But again, it's a vision that you have to believe. Now, when it comes to building out a good vision statement, a good vision for your business, there's two aspects to it that I recommend. The joys of live recording. This worked fine for me and I was trying to pull everything in a couple of minutes ago, so bear with me when I get this over. There we go. So this is what I call an external vision. So we're building out a vision statement, having an external one. And this is the one that will proclaim to the world. This is the one that will tell this company is going to be like this in 3, 5, 10, or 15 years' time. This is the type of company that we want. You know, I've pulled out some examples of vision statements from other companies that you probably all know. Eason's, their vision is to inspire and engage minds of all ages. Very aspirational, and it puts a kind of a line of sight out there going, that's what we want to do. We want to inspire and engage minds. So we're going to build a company that allows us to facilitate that happening at some time in the future. One from Microsoft, to help people and businesses throughout the world realize their full potential. Now, I do a lot of work with Microsoft. I'm lucky enough to work with Microsoft and Micro Warehouse, creating an academy for their top 100 managed service partners. So every one of them comes through a program that I lay out for them, and they spend their time investing. Microsoft spend their time investing in programs like this to help owner managers fulfill their full potential. So that's them living up to their vision statement. We have the likes of, I picked up BAM here. We were recognized as one of Europe's leading sustainable and innovative construction companies. Again, you know, a vision saying this is what we're going to be. And the fact that they're putting in Europe into their statement here, it gives you no ambiguity as to what they want to achieve. Now, having an external vision statement is kind of that line of sight that allows everybody to get on board. But there's equally an important factor that when we start looking at the company over the next, whatever, 5 or 10 years, we need to be able to translate these external visions into internal objectives. Now, I use a philosophy when I'm working with companies. It's called the OST model. It stands for objective, strategy, and tactics. What is the overall objective? So our external statement saying this is what we ultimately want to achieve. What does that objective look like in clear deliverables year on year? And then when we have an understanding of what these are, then we can start building out the strategy. And then we can start putting tactics behind it. So if you can see here, we've this company, and let's pick this one here, for example, pick BAM, and I'm only just picking them as a random example. They want to build out in Europe. Their first year objective, we're going to build our management team. That's the primary objective, to want to build our management team. Within 3 years, that management team is going to help us get into 1 export market. In 5, we're going to be in 5. And in 15 years, we're going to be on all 5 continents. This is laying out a step-by-step internal objective to achieve over the next, 15 years. Very clear, very concise, no ambiguity on it. And when we start breaking that down into how do we make those objectives a reality, then we can get a little bit more granular. Then what we can say in year 1, that 1 objective is going to be supported by a number of different activities. You know, we need 2 senior managers. You know, we need to have 65 customers in total. We need our turnover to be at 6 million, net profitability at 8. Ongoing marketing, processes in place, IT system upgraded. Now these become objectives that we have to work on over this 12 months as a prelude to help us achieving our 2023. And 2023 is a prelude to help us achieving our 2025. So that's how we start mapping out our external vision into our internal objectives and using those objectives to set out a plan of action. And that's what strategy is. Plan of action to reach a predetermined goal. This is where we set the goals for the business overall, and we drive hard for them. Now, for any of you that come on to the academy that we'll be running over the next couple of months, what you end up creating is this 1-page, I call it an OSP, an operational and strategic plan. So you take these objectives and we get them down into a nice 1-pager, which allows us to have this line of sight as to what you should be doing inside your business to help you realize these overall internal objectives to help you eventually achieve your overall external vision. So now we have the connection between motivators and vision. This is what we want personally. These are the goals that we want to set for ourselves. And this is now the goals that we're going to set for the company to help us realize those motivators. And the thing is, we need to make sure that these are aligned. They have to be aligned. If we set ourselves motivators that are, we want to have a nice lifestyle, I don't want to work too hard, and I want enough money to have a lifestyle business, then there's no point having a vision that we're going to be operating on 5 different continents. They have to be aligned, or else we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And I feel that once I get those in place, then we can start getting down to the business of really scaling a business. We know what the owner wants themselves personally, and we know what the business is going to set out as its primary objectives to be achieved year on year over the next 1, 3, 5, and possibly even over 10 years. The next thing that we put in place after a vision statement is a strong purpose statement. And for me, when I'm talking about a purpose statement, it needs to have kind of these elements as part of it. Now, it doesn't need to need them all. What I mean by a purpose statement is when you're sitting with a customer or a client or an internal employee, anybody really, and they ask you, what do? You should be able to recite your purpose statement. And from that, it should either resonate with them or something that they feel that's not for me. When you have a good purpose statement, a strong one, it says, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is how it benefits others. And if you've got that line of sight, that you're able to state that clearly, I guarantee you will attract better employees and usually better customers. And I'm sure the fact that you're on a course this morning or you've taken time out, chances are you're good at reading up as well, taking a bit of time to do some personal development. And you'll see a lot of talk about purpose-driven organizations. Again, I know firsthand, I've worked with companies that, one of the companies that I'm working with now is exceeding over, it's turning over triple-digit millions, well over 100 million. When we started working together, they were turning over about 14 million. They were extremely purpose-driven. This is what we do, and this is how it benefits others. And they kept that to their core business all the time, and they rolled it out everywhere. And they made sure that everyone in the organization knew what the purpose of the company was, and that every department knew what their purpose was. Worst case scenario, this is what we do, and this is how we benefit others. We'll get by, I suppose, with those elements. Ideally, if you can get all three in. Again, another sample of purpose statements. You know, I'm going to take Microsoft's again. They're very close to me, I suppose, to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So everything they do has to be on purpose. Will that new software release help everybody on the planet be more organized and achieve more? If it doesn't, it's not part of what they should be doing. You know, I pulled one from the CIF website there. Oliver Crampton and Sons. Again, I don't know them. They might even look at this seminar and go, isn't it nice to be mentioned? Provide a professional approach to constructing exceptional quality projects which meet budget and succeed and schedule goals. What we do, how we do it, and how it benefits others. Very simple example. Now, if every time they're sitting down with a client and going, our purpose is to make sure that we meet our budget and meet our schedules. And I know that's a wish that every construction company can have at the start of every project. And I know they don't always roll out like that. But when your purpose is around that, you're going to work harder to make that a reality. And it's making every person in the organization aware that that is what your purpose statement is and that you live by it. Again, I cannot stress strongly enough how important it is to have a good purpose statement. You'll see mine down there. Transform the way owner managers think and give them personal and business satisfaction. That's my purpose. I spend my time when I'm working in either in consulting or during the academies or the training programs that I run, trying to change how owner managers think. Because I know if I change the way they think, I'll change the way they behave. If I change the way they behave, I'll change the results that they can achieve. If I can change that, we can change everything. We can change a company from being €1 million to being a €20 million business. Taking one client 3 years ago, two years ago, we started working with them. And they were turning over something like a little over 3.5 million. They're going to turn nearly 20 million this year. So in the space of less than 2.5 years, they've moved from a less than 4 million business to approximately a €20 million business now. Again, by understanding what we can achieve by getting all of these aligned and putting the right building blocks in place, primarily people. Now, I suppose when we get these key elements, now, and I suppose all of you are probably thinking to yourself going, you know, I've some of that done or I've none of that done. And some of you are probably thinking to yourself going, oh, that's nice for other companies to have. And you've probably met other inspirational leaders who talked about a clear vision and a clear sense of purpose. And you said, I'd like to be more like that. And then you've gone off and got extremely busy in your business and forgot to write it down, or, you know, it's only when you come back in programs like this or seminars like this, you realize going, yeah, I thought that was a good idea at the time and I never did it. I'm telling you now that this is something that every successful business owner does and does extremely well. You can do it without it, but as I said to you, it's like driving the car with the handbrake on. These are simple, easy tools that will help align what you want personally with what you want inside the business. Now, when we get to the purpose, again, it's another kind of building block for building a good company. Now, we've motivators for the owner, vision for the business overall, external and internal objectives set around that vision, and we have a sense of purpose, and we got everybody in the company knowing the purpose statement, and that's a key element as well. Everybody's got to know this purpose statement. Then and only then do we start talking strategy. Then and only then do we start talking strategy. And you know, like all the time I'm brought into companies going, look, we need a new sales strategy. I'm kind of going, tell me what your purpose is. I'm not building a sales strategy without you having a clear company purpose. I'm not building a marketing strategy without you having a clear company purpose. And then we'll go one step higher. Have you got the vision to back that up as to where you want to be overall? And all of those elements, if they're in place, now it helps us to start building out a strategic plan that enables us to be on purpose all the time and continually help us achieve those internal objectives, which in turn will support us achieving our vision overall. Now, that's a definition of strategy that I continually use when people are asking me about what is strategy. You know, and like you type in strategy into Google and you'll get probably 2 billion answers as to what strategy is. Over the years, I've kind of crystallized it down into that one simple line. Strategy is a plan of action to reach a predetermined goal. That's it. That's, for me, is the ultimate definition of strategy. And I've no offense to anybody who kind of thinks strategy is something else. For me, that's it. A plan of action. It's great having lovely strategic documents sitting on a shelf that you probably paid somebody 25 grand or 30 grand to do, and it's gathering dust. And, you know, like having the plan is great. Plan of action, the implementation is where the rubber really meets the road. But that plan of action has to help us achieve these predetermined goals. These are the objectives that we set a little bit earlier on when we were mapping out our external and internal vision. Our internal vision setting itself up as being objectives. Our objectives helping us getting clarity in terms of what our goals are. And our strategy is all about the plan of action to help us reach our predetermined goals. Now, I've only got a couple of minutes left. So what I'm going to do is give you kind of some of the headlines that when we start talking about strategy, you know, when I go into companies, when I go into organizations, I suppose over the years, what I've done is I've built up my own toolbox. So I kind of start looking systematically through the company, and I start with financials. You know, let's look at the turnover for this year. Let's look at the profitability. The EBITDA figure is usually what I look at. So let's look at the turnover. Let's look at the EBITDA. Let's match that with what the industry norms are. For the type of company you are, the size of company you are, the sector that you're operating in, are they the right turnover levels? Is that the right level of profitability? So we can start determining a couple of strategies around that. The market, are you operating in the right market? You know, what type of work do you actually really enjoy doing? Where can you be a market leader? Do we need to pick out certain verticals that you should be concentrating on? So rather than trying to be all things to all people, do we pick a market segment that we have 1, 2, or 3 priority verticals, and we make those the centerpiece of everything that we do, and we become the go-to people inside that. We become the authority people inside that marketplace. Even that clarity for companies to say, that's where my sweet spot is, that's the type of company I'm going to build. And you develop that reputation as being the go-to company inside that marketplace. That's what real market strategy is all about. And if we have good clarity, if we've got good clarity in terms of the vertical or the market strategy that we want to pursue, then we can start developing out the right marketing activities or techniques to fulfill that. When it comes to customer, the elements there that I look inside customers are around, first, account management. You know, again, when I go to companies and, you know, they ask me, tell me they want to grow by 25%. I'm going, great. And I'm saying to them, do you know what? You probably never have to get a new customer in over the next 12 to 15 months. Because you know what? That growth is inside your existing customer base. So account management makes up a huge part of analyzing your customers' needs. Are we cross-selling or upselling into them? Are we able to actually, you know, we sell one project into a customer and they come back for more and more and more because of our reputation. Have we got the right relationships with them? And are we doing enough to make sure that we maintain those relationships over the longer term? Have we got a strategy behind that? That's account management. Then we look at the new business development, but we dovetail that into our market strategy and our financial strategy, because at a financial level, we said we want more pharmaceutical contracts. We want more residential contracts. We want more industrial contracts, commercial. We want to work for the likes of the data centers industry. When you make those type of choices, when it comes to the building your customer base, we're already predetermined where we're going to have those expertise. The efficiency and innovation piece. Efficiencies are when we're looking inside our organization, can we do things smarter? Can we pick 1 or 2 different processes that we can change? Can we pick 1 or 2 different systems that we can put in place? Can we use technology to help us with how we look after all the administration? Can we use technology to help us guide us how we run projects on site? And can we use that effectively? Do we've got the right business intelligence mapped on there, which will give us the data? So when you're building out efficiencies models, it starts with data. Do we have the right data to be able to make decisions on? Innovation is where you're looking at, right, do I need to bring something new to the market, or do I bring something new from a product or a service and amalgamate them together and reposition them to a new marketplace. Innovation doesn't have to be this mad creativity that comes up with something absolutely totally new. Sometimes it's just an iterative improvement on a methodology that you already have. And finally, as part of that strategic plan, we have your people and organization. Now, I say finally, but it's not by any means least. I mentioned earlier on when I was looking at the 4 key elements of scaling a company with people, plan, implementation, and cash. It always starts with people. Do I have the right talent density inside the organization, which will help me succeed? Believe it or not, at the moment, and as probably since the middle of COVID, I've had to change a lot of strategies to be obviously more people-centric. And it's not that we weren't always people-centric in terms of building out an organization, because we realized we're going to build it on people. But I've seen now that with the change in working environments, the change of working habits, the change in conditions that people want, I've started looking at 2 specific programs around people. One is called Expertly Managed Company, and the second was called People, Personal and Business Success, where we really understand what people want inside the organization, and can we build an organization that facilitates that, knowing that if we get good people and we're able to facilitate their personal growth and their career ambitions, they're going to be the people that will take us forward. And then it's about building the right organizational structures to make sure we have the right people doing the right things more of the time. And that includes you guys sitting around the table. And this goes back to that spending 60% of your time doing more strategic activities rather than operational activities. And all of that is predicated on the fact that we've been very clear when we've mapped out our financial objectives inside the business as to what we want to achieve, because we said profit plus time equals success. So what I do at this section here, just to break this out a little bit more before I hand over to my colleague Paddy, what I do here at the very, very start when I'm looking at the financials inside a company, what we do is we take a breakdown of the current business now. So we look at the revenue, let's say in 2021. Now, if 2021 is an anomaly, I know a lot going on this year, and at last they're hard to get a baseline on them. But good decisions are built on good data. We need a good financial system that's able to slice and dice our company so that we can see who our customers are, what sectors they're in, how much revenue we achieve from them, how much profitability we have from each of those individual sectors. So if you're a construction company and you're looking at, yes, we build for residential, yes, we build for commercial. Out of commercial, we build some data center projects, we build some pharmaceutical projects, we build some retail projects, and you're able to analyze the profitability on those. Then you can start analyzing, going, well, where's my sweet spot? What is the market that I should be in? So rather than trying to be everything to all people, maybe I need to specialize. Maybe I need one niche. And this is not going to turn down other work. This is where you don't say no while you're saying yes. You don't say no to business that'll walk in the door, but you say yes to the verticals that you strategically want to go after. So when you analyze out your business from a revenue perspective, and you do this both from a revenue and from a profitability perspective, it'll give you a line of sight to what sectors are really giving you the results in your current business. And then we go back to these motivators. Does it make you happy? Does it give us that sense of self-satisfaction? So when we take that and then we start looking, right, there's areas of my business that I want to change. There's areas of my business that I know I can make a hell of a lot better. In this case, maybe this is data center business over here. Maybe this is DC business. And you're kind of going, well, DC is going to be hot for the next, 10 years in Ireland. Maybe I need to get into that. Maybe I need to improve the people that I have that understand DC technology so that we can talk more their language. Maybe I need better account managers inside the DC space. Maybe I need better QSs. Maybe I need better partners that help me build out a company that can service the DC space. With a view that by 2023, my revenue will have grown by maybe 30% in that space, and I make that one of my strategic priorities. And we see an area here that we've reduced. We might look at that over here and say, do you know what? That only gives us 6% margin when we're looking at it. This one over here, this sector over here, gives us as high as maybe 15% margin. Maybe I want to grow that more. I've seen where we've taken sectors or verticals inside companies and say, you know what, we need to eradicate that out of your base anymore. You're not quoting that type of work anymore. It's got to stop. A, it's not your area of expertise. B, it's not profitable for you. Let's spend our time doing the one that gives us the most return. On the other side of that, I've seen where in one of the businesses that I've been involved in, where we saw one of these segments that was turning over 4% of its turnover, but its profitability was phenomenal. Like, we're talking about profits up in the 60s, 60% profit they were making on this. And they decided to re-gear their entire business around that product. And that product now makes up 96% of the current business after 3 years. Because that is the type of business that they want. That is the business that they said we can do best. That is the product that we can service at a higher standard. That is the business that we want, what we really want. And we've mapped out a plan, this plan of action to reach a predetermined goal to get there. And we're now able to shift our revenue from looking like this in 21 to looking like this in 2023. But that's you making decisions proactively that this is the business that you want to build. Not just going through your business life reacting to everything that happens. It's not you saying at the end of 2021 that you're saying, I'm just going to try and grow my business by 10%. And that's a regular thing I see. You know, they look at last year's numbers and say, right, let's aim for 10% growth. Why not look for strategic growth? And there's nothing to say that it has to be 10% or 5%. Maybe as part of your plan that you're kind of going, right, you know what, we're going to have to reduce our turnover next year while or reduce our profitability next year while we're investing in those senior management team that have more DC capabilities. So these short-term pains will be for your 2023 plan. But then that goes back to you having this clear line of sight with your internal objectives and knowing how they link up. So at the end of, I suppose, my half an hour, 40 minutes, all I've wanted to do really is to help you make the connection between that your own motivators can be the driver for you setting out a vision for a company that you want to build over the next 3, 5, 10, or 15 years. And that if you have a strong sense of purpose, it'll make it easier for you to attract the talent inside your organization and to attract the right type of customers to you. And that if we do this correctly and map it out, we can build a plan of action to reach these predetermined goals. And we can do it in a way with a proven toolbox. You know, that if we get each one of these elements inside the strategic plan and we map out some key activities around each one of those, then I guarantee you're going to make your company more successful and you'll build the company that you want. Now, all that means that if we do it successfully, we're going to have a more profitable business. Better turnover, better EBITDA, better profitability, and that allows us to reinvest in better talent, which gives us more time to do the things that we want to do inside and outside the business, which is what we set out to do at the very, very start. Now, if we're going to make more profits inside our business and we want more time to use it, then we need a really good financial advisor who's going to come along and help us to maximize the profits that we're creating inside our business. So before we jump on to Paddy's section, Paddy, I see you're after hopping on there.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. Before we jump to your section there, Paddy, can I just open up to see, is there any questions from that monologue for the last 40 minutes? Has anybody any questions? Has it raised any thoughts with you? Do you believe me? You're all very quiet. Have I stunned you into silence, have I? Okay, so I tell you what, I don't see any questions popping up there, Liz. I don't think there's any questions in chat, is there?
No,
So
I couldn't see anything in chat either. And listen, sorry, just to say as well, like if you decide afterwards that you do have questions and you know you don't feel that you want to ask them now, or maybe something pops into your head later, you can always filter them through me and I'll pass them on to Damien or Paddy as they go. Actually, what I'll probably do is I'll send out your contact details. Would that be fair enough, Damien and Paddy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
fine. Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah.
I'll send out your contact details. and then you can contact them directly yourselves if you want after that. I'd just like to say, just as an aside, I'm just over a year in the Construction Professionals SkillNet, but I've worked with Damien for nearly 13 years on this programme. I used to work in ISME, the Irish Small and Medium Enterprises Association, and we put a large number of companies through this. And I would say to every single person who participated in it got something out of it. And, you know, the programme has improved and changed constantly over the years. It's not, you know, the programme that you have now is not the programme that was 12 or 13 years ago. The principles might be the same behind it, but there's been a lot of tweaking, a lot has moved on. So I do think it is something that, you know, depending on where you're at and what you're thinking of doing, it is something that's well worth having a look at, and seeing it may well help get you to where you actually want to be.